and welcome to today's episode of Realm Talks To. Today, I am absolutely delighted to have with us Lindsey Kidd, Managing Director of HM3 Legal. Welcome, Lindsey. How are you?
I'm super good, thank you. How are you?
We like super good. Yes, same. Thank you. Not too bad at all. So, Lindsey, just to start us off, for those out there who might not know anything about HM3 Legal, could you just tell us a little bit about the firm, where you're based, what sorts of law you practice?
Yeah, sure. So we're a full service multidisciplinary practice based in the northwest. So we've got offices in Chester and Liverpool and on the Wirral. So doing every kind of legal service for private clients and every kind of legal service for businesses. Our target market is SME leaders in the northwest and high net worth individuals.
Fantastic. And you spent the majority of your legal career at HM3
Yeah.
Legal. And I think in 2017 you became managing director, supreme leader of the brand. How has the firm evolved since that time for you?
Yeah, so the firm is completely different from when I joined in 2007. So if I take you all the way back to then, at that point, the firm was essentially a high street practice doing private client work. I joined in 2007 and we started on a journey to reimagine the business as the full service commercial firm that it is now. So a strong remit was given to me to grow and develop the commercial services that we offer, which we've delivered in that we're now in a position whereby 60% of the turnover does come from B2B services. And I think a lot has changed. So our clients have changed and we've grown with them. We've added new teams, we've opened new offices, we've got a fresh sense of purpose. So in terms of how it's changed, it is completely different, I think, and in a positive way.
Well, it sounds like you've done some wonderful things there. So congratulations, I guess, first of all, in that relatively short amount of time. I guess it's kind of revamped completely. And I know that the firm has gone through quite a radical, if I can say that as a marketer, a radical rebrand in recent years. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, certainly. And you're exactly right. I think that's nice to hear you think it's radical. It is quite bold. We appreciate that it's not for everyone. I think the genesis of the idea for this was actually the pandemic. So in the eye of the storm, so June 2020, we were all, weren't we, if we reflect back in that whole lives and livelihoods conundrum. And as managing director, I didn't have a playbook for how to navigate the pandemic, as did nobody else. And the people were saying, oh, well, we're all in the same boat now, but we weren't really, were we? We're in the same storm, but some of us had big super yachts and some of us had inflatable dinghies without any oars. And I
That's
think
such a nice way of putting it.
we wanted to make sure that not only did we survive the pandemic, but that we were a super resilient, thriving business at the end of it. So we decided to have a good hard look at ourselves as a business, and we were doing fine, we were growing. But what we recognised is that we felt we needed to have more of a competitive edge because we do operate in a very saturated market. I think there's something like, I don't know, 9,500 law firms out there. The top 200 of those turn over something like, I guess, 2 billion at the DLA end of the spectrum, down to 12 million at the bottom of the top 200, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that leaves 9,300 of us in the 12 million turnover and below bracket, and that's the space that we operate in. For sure, there'll be niche and boutique practices in there, charging a premium. There'll be volume-driven, tech-enabled businesses operating to a different model, but for most of us, we're in this, what we think is a very saturated market, the mid-tier space where lots of commercial firms like ours, we look the same, we say the same things, we're serving the same kind of clients, and broadly speaking that means we're charging the same kind of price, or price becomes the only playground in which you can compete. And we didn't want to compete on price, so we thought we needed to offer something different, and we did a lot of deep client listening that we commissioned to find out what were the fears and frustrations that SME leaders felt when contracting legal services. And it'll come as no surprise, the fears were around what does it involve, how long is it going to take, what's it going to cost. And the frustrations were around, where's my lawyer? Why won't they call me back? I don't know what's going on with my matter. So those are all really very easy things to fix if you take the time and effort. So instead of just saying we're client-centric and we care about our clients, what we decided to do was put our money where our mouth was, and we built out 6 tangible brand standards that we live and hold ourselves to account by, and wrap that up with this bold, refreshing looking brand that you've alluded to. Appreciate we're not for everyone, but at least people are taking a look at it, which is a positive. So I suppose the very long answer to the question is it was born out of trying to properly meet client needs in our target market. And the thinking behind that really is, if you keep the clients happy, they'll come back for more, they'll refer and recommend. So I guess cost per acquisition of a matter is lower. What I did learn throughout the pandemic is that actually to deliver that, you need to look after your people. Because if you look after your people and give them what they need to be their best self at work, they take pleasure in looking after your clients. The clients then look after the business, and you can reinvest that back in the people. It's it's quite a simple proposition really, but it does take hard work every day.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we love long answers here, so that's perfect. I was just about to say, very simple cycle, I guess, yes, in terms of the theory of it, but very, very hard. And I come myself from an in-house legal background, so very, very hard to execute. And I've had the pleasure of visiting you in your offices in Chester, which are incredible, such lovely modern space right there in the city centre, and very quirky, which I really, really liked about your brand. You definitely stand out. And I think you're right, we commissioned some research earlier on in the year, and one of the things that came out of that was lack of differentiation from an employer brand perspective, but I think certainly that lends itself as well to your client brand. Lack of differentiation amongst law firms, particularly, as you say, within that kind of size that you alluded to. So I think it's brilliant that you're taking those steps to make yourself stand out in a very interesting way. And when we came over to see you, I know that you talked about things like your NPS score, so your net promoter score, which I know that you're really proud of, and for good reason. So can you tell us a little bit about that and how you've managed to achieve that?
Yeah, I think so. Most law firms measure themselves on turnover or maybe chargeable hours or billing. They're vanity metrics for me. If somebody that's focused on wanting clients to feel properly looked after, it's got to be all about the client experience. So our main metric in the business isn't turnover or chargeable hours or what people have billed. It is our net promoter score. So how we're doing in terms of client experience, and as a follow on how we're doing in employee experience. So our net promoter score is very good, as you say. So just very quickly for any listeners that don't know what net promoter score is, it's how likely a client is to return to you or refer and recommend you. And they give you a score out of 10. Your 9s and 10s are your strong advocates. Anything 0 to 6 are detractors. Your 7s and 8s are your passives, so they neither refer nor recommend or say anything bad about you. And when we first had our investors in customers surveyed externally, we got gold at the first outing, so I knew we were onto something right. Your net promoter score can be anything from -100 to +100. Anything from 0 to 50 is good. Anything 50 plus is really, really good. The average net promoter score for legal services is -46.
And which will be a surprise to some people. Well, maybe not a surprise to others, but
yeah, I think it's a lot because we don't pick up the phone. Is a lot of it, or we don't do what we say we're going to do when we said we were going to do it as an industry, as a sector. So we're really proud of our net promoter score because ours is +79. So that's a world-class net promoter score. That's better than Apple and Peloton and Microsoft. So we're definitely getting the client experience right on more occasions than not. Appreciate we don't always get it right, and that's where the humility has to come in, and we just want to learn. I would say that listening is actually our superpower in this business. We listen to clients and listen again, and we listen to our colleagues as well. weekly. We have an employee engagement platform where people can check in every week, and we introduced this also during the pandemic, and that was to make sure that we stayed connected. But it's become so much more than just a connection platform. It allows us to set our organisational goals for those to drop down to team level and colleague level, making sure that everybody's driving towards the same purpose. It allows us to course correct each week if we're seeing some sentiment that perhaps we need to address. I can address it really early rather than, these usual, you have an appraisal once a year and it's very backward looking. We don't have that. It's, a weekly check-in, and everybody's personal business plan is hosted on the platform so that we can see how we're doing as we all drive towards this common goal. And our employee engagement score is hosted on the platform as well, so we can track how engaged our colleagues are and whether they're enjoying their experience with us too. To bring it back to the whole point is look after our people, give them what they need to be their best, and they'll look after the clients and the client experience.
That all sounds so impressive, genuinely. And I think, that approach to, you've talked there about the client experience and also the experience of colleagues within the business. But the client experience must kind of reflect back into the culture so much, because I'm sure if you asked any lawyer working in the business, not your business, but the business, capital B, what are their common stresses? Unhappy clients must be up there. And from what it sounds like, you've nailed that aspect of the business. So do you think that is something that, helps people within the business want to come to work and do their best every day?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if we can deliver nice clients, I don't really like the word nice, but
I understand, yeah.
Clients that appreciate the value that you're adding and are strong advocates for you, and you're working collaboratively with them. If you've got yourself into that trusted advisor space, then you're going to get more work from them, more work from their networks of similar kind of clients and businesses. And if you're thrilling your connections, the intermediaries, in the same way, then what you get are nice clients to work with who are easy to work with, and it becomes more pleasurable. And I think that the other side of that coin is making sure that our people have the time to deliver the client experience that we ask of them. So these brand standards that we've introduced took a lot of training. It took us 18 months in total to get everybody on board with how we were going to deliver these brand standards. And it's something that we need to focus on every day to make sure we are holding ourselves to account with them. So for colleagues, that means making sure that they've got the time to meet the brand standards, and for the more senior lawyers that are training junior lawyers, that they've got the time, space and permission to bring on the junior lawyers, so that does that make sense? So making sure that they're not working excessive hours. In fact, we're quite the opposite here. It's always really saddens me to hear about lawyers being beasted in other firms. We make sure we don't have this here. We make sure that everything is curated so that the senior lawyers have time to bring on the junior lawyers, because at the end of the day, those people are the future of this business, aren't they? So they need to be mentored. So we have a formal mentoring program as well that goes alongside. Everybody has a personal business plan. So sorry, I've gone off the question. What was the question?
No, that's absolutely fine. It's all very interesting stuff. I think I was kind of just talking about how maybe the external culture impacts on the internal culture. But I think what's really interesting is that clearly you have so much in the way of training and development for the people that join your team. And I know that very much you kind of describe it as a grow your own type of culture. And I know, as I say, when I came over to visit, you were telling me about some of the schemes that you've got in terms of mentorship, the training that you have around things like NPS scoring and client service.
Yeah.
So I guess the question might be now, how does HM3 Legal support lawyers in order to fulfill their full potential within the business?
Yeah, okay. Well, so listening again, back to our superpower of listening to what they want, because it takes many cogs to make the machine work. Not everyone wants growth and development opportunities. What we find is most people do. So it's back, I guess, to that R&R piece, the recruitment and retention. But for me, there's pieces missing there. We've got to attract the people in the first place by having a really strong employer value proposition.
Yeah.
Got to have that. So it's almost as important, or if not as important, as the client-facing brand.
Yeah.
Got to
Got
attract.
to have that foundation there.
Yes.
Yeah, that's music to my ears, Lindsay.
Then you've got to recruit, so you've got to sell them. And I think this is, if the way things have been during the pandemic and post-pandemic, I'm accepting any candidate that's coming in to see us is interviewing us. Not how it used to be pre-pandemic, where we'd interview and there'd be, it's quite the opposite. It's our opportunity to showcase what's on offer here. So we've got to attract, we've got to recruit, and it's not recruitment and retention, but there's a missing piece for me there, and that is learning. So it's the whole development, growth and progression opportunities to make people want to stay. Because if you don't invest in that, then you're just working them, aren't you? Yeah. Like a commodity. So we don't do that. We make sure that we've got that whole learning and development piece properly structured. So in the training academy, we'll have, I think this is what you were alluding to, we have How to Wow, which is how to deliver the brand standards. That's an ongoing learning that we do together. We have our power hours. So this is about making sure our people don't just have professional expertise as part of their learning and development. This is about their business and human skills, or some people might call it soft skills or essential skills, however you want to call it. It's things that are going to help you get on in your professional career beyond your technical expertise. So that might be anything from imposter syndrome to unconscious bias, how to have difficult conversations, whatever it is, that kind of thing. We have Bite Size, which is our tech sessions, Back to Basics, where I'll talk to the teams about the realities of running a legal business so that they understand why we're asking them to, get monies on account, explaining the business proposition behind that. So there's like a very structured, if you like, training academy that people tap into. And I think if you give them those learning and development and continuous growth opportunities, that's how you unlock their discretionary effort. They become more engaged because you're giving them the tools that they need to help you deliver the organisational goals, and you are developing them as an individual as well. We've got a Future Leaders programme for those that want to avail themselves of that, because of course, aren't we? We're all leaders at any stage in our career, aren't we? So it's just making sure that we're doing that. The latest one we're running is a formal and business development and networking training, because I think that's one thing that we're definitely not taught at any point in our legal education, not at university, not at law school. It's not, it's got to be learnt on the job, and we put in place a formal training program. So we've got a cohort of I think probably a third of the business are going through that at the moment, so that's going really well. The formal mentoring program, 2/3 of our business have opted in to be formally mentored or to mentor someone, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that's really popular and paying great dividends. And the beauty of having the employee engagement platform is you can ask people what they're enjoying, what they want, and you do more of that. Easy. Listening. Superpower.
Wow. I mean, there's just so much on offer there, isn't there? And I think, going back to that idea of your EVP, your employer value proposition, and I think you're right. I think across the sector, there is a little bit of a danger now that lawyers, depending on the business that they're in, are going to be beasted, I think, to kind of borrow your term. And I think there's been such a battleground for pay, salaries over the last few years, that that money has to come from somewhere, within a business. So I think the fact that you are taking an approach where you're looking at the whole package, I think, including people's satisfaction, I think, in the workplace, and the fact that they feel like they're not, it doesn't sound at all like someone would join your business, be sat at the desk doing the same sort of stuff day in, day out, and feeling like they're kind of stuck. So I think in terms of your offering there, I think it's very strategic and also the right thing to do as well, which is sometimes something that's easily forgotten, I think, as well in businesses.
I think so. It's for me. It's common sense though. So I think back to your pay point. You've got to take that out of the equation. Pay is obvious thing. So what we do, we just benchmark salaries to make sure we're paying. We might not pay the top salary because given the size and location we are, that's not going to completely stack up. But we make sure we pay top quartile. So we take pay out of the equation by paying well. So making sure that the remuneration package is sorted, and then you've got to look at the other things that make people happy. So we know that growth and development opportunities, they are what our people want, so we give them those. Clear and transparent progression pathways. So if you are interested in progression to associate, senior associate, partner, we're very clear on the kind of things that will get you there, so that you can then curate your personal business plan to tailor that, and we'll support you on that journey. It's an obvious win-win. We you grow, we help you grow, that helps us grow. And I think that those the sort of the learning and development, the growth opportunities, the progression pathways, making it really obvious that, so we're an alternative business structure, so one of our owners isn't a lawyer, and you don't need to be a qualified solicitor to get on here. You can, we go on experience and contribution. What else was I going to say? To complete the picture. So you need a positive work culture, don't you? The culture's got to be right. You've got to look after your staff's well-being. And if you put those things all together, those four things together, so sort the package, sort the growth opportunities, you've got the culture and the well-being. That's and the well-being comes, we could probably have another full hour on that. How we go about supporting well-being, but you're on your way there, aren't you, to make it something that's worth people having a look at.
Absolutely. And something that I was going to add on to that and mention, because I think it's very important to people, it has been for a while and certainly still is right now, is the home working side of things, the hybrid working side. Because I know that when we came to see you in your offices earlier in the year, you do offer that, and you are committed to keeping that in place in a landscape where some firms are scaling back on that. So perhaps it's just worthwhile touching on that as well, Lindsay.
Yeah, thanks. Well, yeah, I think, recognising that, we're based in the Northwest, Chester and Liverpool. So one of the things pre-pandemic that we used to be able to talk very positively about was much better work-life balance. So for for lawyers living in sort of geographically where we are, would get very tired schlepping down the M53 to the firms there. So we could sell ourselves on a different way. Like now in the pandemic, of course, everyone pretty much working from home, so that USP eroded to a degree. So I'll be honest, that was part of the reason we did look at how we could reposition ourselves in the market and stand out from the swamp. So we definitely got to keep that, but not just from a talent attraction point of view, but just because it totally makes sense. Plus, I enjoy working flexibly. I'm not going to ask somebody to do something that I'm not prepared to do myself. I don't want to come back to the office 5 days a week. I've got a young family. And I think, so just reflecting back, so you shamed me there by saying when I became managing director was 2017. So I'm just thinking my boys will have been 2 and 4 at that time, will they? So I've led the business whilst raising a family. Caroline, who's one of the co-owners, similarly has a young family. And I think that resonates, the flexibility that we offer resonates with a lot of colleagues, because they know that they can, have that flexibility, and it's there. They don't have to ask for it as you would have to at some other firms, if that makes sense.
Totally
Other firms will say, "Oh, you can have it if you need it," whereas we'll just say, "Do what you need to do."
Yeah, absolutely. It's a
you're
different
grown
conversation,
up.
isn't it?
You're a professional grown up. You just do what you need to do.
Yeah. No, it's great, and I think it's brilliant that two such senior figures in the business do have young families, and can be great kind of ambassadors for that in a way, and kind of champion those things. Because I think sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes that we did a survey with parents working in the law again earlier this year, and something that came out of that survey was not maybe having enough senior figures in the business to kind of be like, look, here's an example of what you can get to, in spite of having a family, if you're kind of within a business that supports that and recognises the unique value you bring as parents to the role and to the firm as well. So no, I think that's another obviously quite significant factor, I think, probably adding to your EVP there as well. So thank you for sharing that with us as well. And what's in store for HM3 Legal in the next 12 months? Obviously, you've been on such a journey in the past sort of 6 and 7 years. What does the next year look like for you?
It's going well, so I'm going to say more of the same, because we're happy with what we offer and how we offer it. We just need to make sure that we keep on executing the plan. We've built a brand and some brand standards that we're really proud of that seem to be turning heads in the market. We seem to be eye-catching for all the right reasons, so that's great. We'll continue to focus on employee experience and client experience. But in terms of new things beyond that, we are just on the cusp of B Corp accreditation, so very much a purpose-led business. Actually, that's been really positive for us in the marketplace. So in terms of candidates coming for interview, that's something that has attracted candidates to us. So that's very positive. I think next year we'll probably go for best companies, which is something we've been thinking about, because we can see and we know that we're doing a lot of the things that are required to meet that standard. So we'll probably do that. We'll probably push a little bit more on we have two schemes. So we've got a lawyer link scheme, which is where other firms can't service work perhaps in a particular area or due to resource or conflict. They send their work to us for a 10% back to them, or a 10% reduction in the bill for their client if they prefer it that way. And the other thing we have is our Flexus scheme. So some of the people that work with us aren't directly employed. We have people with us on, if you like, a challenger brand model, where like on a fee share arrangement, that's working really well for, in fact, lawyers are at different stages in their career, so that want to come and service their book of work under our eye-catching brand. So they're trying to give their client base, the brand experience that we have, but don't necessarily want to be employed. So we'll probably look to grow that way, as well as our organic growth that we continue with, just on the back of all the things that we've talked about in this session.
Absolutely. Oh, that sounds very, very exciting, and it doesn't sound like you're slowing down at all. It's full steam ahead. Lots of new kind of commercial developments and employee developments as well. So thank you so much for talking to us today, Lindsey. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure we'll speak soon, probably in another 12 months' time, to review all of these things that you're going to put in place.
Fabulous. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.